about the situation being resolved.
And also on the breakfast, ahead of the 2023 general elections in Nigeria, the Independent National Electoral Commission is saying no new political party will be registered ahead of the polls. This is the end of any plan of the third force as a political party.
Plus, we have analysis of the headlines in today's national dailies. These and more ahead on the breakfast. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. And what is a beautiful Tuesday morning? I'm Kofi Bartels.
And I am Messi Bokpo. It's good to be back on your screen at the very first day in the month of March. It's okay to say Happy New Month.
You know, I didn't even remember today was first March.
Yeah, that's
I know it's first March, but I didn't remember not thinking
okay.
about it. That's how, maybe it's about February, not running the full course of 30 or 31 days.
I hope your birthday wasn't on the 20th.
Some people say today, a day like this, is a day to still wish your friends who were born on 29th February a happy birthday, even though it's not a leap year.
Nah, it's not.
It's not.
There's no 29 and there's no 29. Today's first.
Yeah, well, or yesterday probably could have been a day to wish your friends who was born on the 29th of February.
Usually, if you want to wrap your head around that conversation, it's usually very strange.
It's strange.
And very, very sad.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I think it's okay. You save some money. You don't celebrate your birthday. You do that only once every 4 years. So, anyway, there's a lot to look at today. The FOQs are still there. The black market sellers, as we call them, are making a killing, and they are making good money. We'll look at that as we go on. Also, of course, we have the elections coming up, Mercy. Yes, indeed, we have the elections coming up, and there's a lot to talk about, especially as INEC has released the timetable and published officially the notice of election as required by law. But let's start with the top trending stories. The Ukrainian invasion by Russia is still on. Some people call it an invasion. Some people call it Russia versus Ukraine. Some call it attack on Ukraine. But whatever you want to call it, Russian troops are in Ukraine, and it's a worrying development for humanity, a worrying development for mankind. Mercy, yesterday, as we know, the United Nations General Assembly had a long session talking about the Russia-Ukraine crisis. And of course, the nation of Russia is still a part of the UN. They've not been removed from it. They can't be removed at this point. Ukraine is also a member of the UN. So they had, not the General Assembly, I apologize, not the General Assembly, but they had a meeting captured and killed by Ukrainian forces. And what the text message showed was that he was upset. He was scared. He was confused. The young Russian soldier sent a message to his mother saying that they were told that they were going to be welcomed as heroes in Ukraine. You know, the Russians manage information, and they have a very strong propaganda system. So he said to his mother, we were told we're going to be welcomed as heroes in Ukraine. We're told that we're fighting for the Ukrainians to free them from Nazis. But we came here and the people were throwing stones at us. They were lying down. They were trying to stop our tanks, and they were lying down on the ground trying to stop us. That we've had to use our tanks to ride over our Ukrainian citizens, lying down on the ground, and to also ride over using their tanks to crush Ukrainian cars. There's a video going on the internet where you see a Russian tank crushing. It's driving over a Ukrainian a car. So that was what transpired at the United Nations, a long session. And the Russian ambassador to the United Nations responded by saying, hey, the Ukrainians are responsible for this. He went over to talk about the Minsk protocol, an agreement that was signed between the Russians and the Ukrainians. And this has to do with not embarking on any aggression towards parts of Russia or parts of Ukraine that want to attack Russia. We never had any plans. We never had any reason or any intention to enter Donbass, where you have Donetsk and then Luhansk. So it was been a back and forth. But the pictures, the reports, and the videos emanating from a neighboring country where the Russians and Ukrainians met for a meeting and for talks. So things flying around.
Well, it's also reported yesterday that Russia and Ukraine actually had started the peace talk, and we're hoping that it makes a lot of sense. The peace talk, in essence, is that both parties would come together and call for a ceasefire. And usually at this point in time, there's also another report saying that you have Belarus also, trying to invade, and that's according to a U.S. official. Some people say, whose report do you believe? Because at the time when the United States said you were going to have Russia invade Ukraine, nobody took that to heart, and eventually that happened. And now you're also having another, talk saying you probably might have Belarus invading Ukraine. Now, people have constantly said, I mean, you remember having this conversation on this platform. We talked about the fact that what we're going to be seeing would be alliance. You will now have alliance being formed, and so different countries would just be, supporting and taking, standing behind each of this country. For instance, Ukraine. So you probably begin to find out that you might just be having allies of Ukraine and Russia coming together, and so different countries will continue to tilt towards each other. But it's okay that the peace talk is going. I really don't know if that's actually ended, and we're hoping that that makes a lot of sense. Usually when you have that particular peace talk, we're hoping that both parties would have actually reduced, whatever it is that they were doing. For instance, the attack would probably reduce on different facilities and all of that. We're looking forward to having, a peaceful world.
Yes, indeed. The United Nations is the place where these issues should be discussed. And usually, if any war is meant to take place in this country, the Security Council, in this world, the Security Council, the UN Security Council needs to pass a resolution. You usually would see that if the Americans and the West, NATO and the allies want to go on embark on any war, the Russians and the Chinese may most likely veto it, and vice versa. So the Russians didn't go to the Security Council to say this is a situation we want to go into, and then give them an opportunity to solve it. They went in on their own. But the Americans and NATO have done that in the past as well. In Yugoslavia, the former Yugoslavia, they were able to. In former Yugoslavia, they were able to. They embarked on a war because of what's going on in Kosovo without a UN resolution. But the latest from as far as the Nigerians in Ukraine are concerned, we've been talking about this for some time, and a lot of people are interested in that. So let's give them some snippets of what the Minister of Foreign Affairs said yesterday on national TV at night at about 7 p.m. He said that the evacuation of Nigerians is on. The plans are already in motion. Evacuation flights from Nigeria expected to commence from Ukraine's neighboring countries this week via Air Peace and Max Air. You can see that's the latest daily update from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and signed by the Permanent Secretary. So they have now been releasing daily updates, and I think that's very commendable. This one's signed and properly written, not like the other one that had a lot of grammatical errors. It's properly written, signed by the Permanent Secretary and the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So he says Fly Air Peace and Max Air will be lifting Nigerians anytime this week. He also said that about 5,600 Nigerian students in Ukraine, a total of 8,000 Nigerians in all in Ukraine, very close to what our guest yesterday said. He also said currently 1,000 Nigerians who have crossed 1,000 Nigerians who have crossed into Romania or have crossed into Romania from Ukraine. They will be airlifted in the coming days. Also, Nigerians are crossing successfully into Poland and Hungary. About 150 of them are in Sumy in Ukraine, which is closer to Russia. So they will be expected to go to Russia. So they have these arrangements with Max Air and Air Peace to fly these Nigerians home in the coming days. But he also said that not all Nigerians may want to come back home. Some may want to stay there. So only those who want to leave will be evacuated. He also clarified the issues with why the federal government had not flown into Ukraine to pick. Some Nigerians have been saying. People have been saying this, so he had to clarify. And he reiterated that the airspace of Ukraine is currently closed to commercial flights. So the evacuations have to happen in neighboring countries.
I really don't understand. I mean, when I
Why
actually saw
people are
that
still...
message, from the Nigerian government, what it was, I mean, the Nigerian embassy, the letter that was actually put out, it was actually in public space and domain. What I expected was there's going to be a disclaimer that it was fake
Oh, that
because
first
of the
one.
content. Yeah, because of the content on how it was put out.
Okay.
The truth is, when I juxtaposed that with that of India, the embassy, you could see that this country understood what was going on. It's a conflict zone. The airspace will be short. So Ukrainian airspace has been short, and there's nothing you can do. It's so dangerous. You can't even try to begin to say, oh, we're Nigerians, and then we're coming there to have... What are you saying? They would take down anything in that space, anything they see. So it's not even a time for you to begin to say, oh, we can't come there. We already know what it is. And so there's no need for you to begin to state the obvious. And the big question here has been, have we been proactive? Do we always wait for things to happen? As much as people would say, oh, it's not entirely on the Nigerian government, to evacuate citizens. That's because you have people who are responsible, parents, guardians, who are responsible for their wards, students in Ukraine. Right? But we need to, move away from that and get back to Nigeria. And let's look at the issue of students protesting. Talking about ASU strike, ENSA strike. And they have talked about the impact. They cannot continue to be away. And all of this strike constantly affects them. State universities and federal universities, the fact that they have to stay home, it's no longer news. But one of the things that worries me or that concerns me, that this did not, as much as, yes, we're talking about it, as much as we think that it also made part of the conversation, yesterday and up until this moment, but it really didn't get that kind of recognition that one would think. It's not a joke. As we're saying, they're going to be on strike for 1 month. It's not even a time. The fact that we have distorted calendar, academic calendar, it's not something to celebrate. It's really, really, if we're a country that we pay attention to mental health, it does a lot of harm to the people. And imagine, what will actually happen at this period, or, that students have to be at home. So I really don't know, but I know that ASU would be on the other side saying, oh, the students should probably be on our side, understanding the plight and understanding the fact that we're fighting for, the cause of the Nigerian student. But really, is ASU really fighting for the cause of the Nigerian student? Do you also have the government paying attention to the interest of the Nigerian student? There were several tweets yesterday. I saw some people saying it has to end now. We say the youth are the leaders of tomorrow, but you don't pay attention to education. Education is very key. It's important. Right? But there's always this saying, and even some, the Bible, and for those who actually would believe in the Bible, you have some parts that your money would actually go where your heart is. So wherever you see your money going to, that's where your heart is. How much do we pay, how much attention do we pay to the educational sector? Why do we constantly even have to bother about our student in Ukraine? So you constantly have, the figures on the high. People are leaving, students are leaving, whether or not they want to study, everybody's just trying to find a way out. Is it not high time we pay attention? Is this rocket science? Is this mission impossible? What exactly is the problem that we, giant of Africa, cannot fix?
That's a very interesting question. What's the problem that the giant of Africa cannot fix? Like you said, that protest was, they gathered at a Unity Fountain, but they walked through some streets in Abuja. We're told that they caused, you can see the pictures there, they caused some discomfort to some motorists. They caused some hardship to some motorists, when they walked on the streets. But I'm looking at the students there, and I'm wondering whether this protest is going to affect anything, because it's just a few students. You look at the number of students you have in Nigeria, it's just a few students. These are not Nigerian students. I'm sorry. It's a disgrace. They should go home.
So you say this? Why did you say this is not a Nigerian student?
They should go home. The nuns, they should go home, because over the years, student unionism has died in Nigeria. If we're talking about the Student Union government, we're talking about the National Association of Nigerian Students, it's died. It's dead. It's dead. You and I went to the same uni. I don't know I should tell the listeners. What did you see? When has the student union bodies, be it the National Association of Nigerian Students or the state unions or the SUG in schools, when have they come out to consciously or to talk about conscious issues, to protest conscious issues, to be a force for change and for good in the university first. I'm not talking about breaking glasses and all that, or protesting when there's no water alone, but serious issues. These guys have become.
I mean, when there's no water, that's a serious issue. So
these
who
guys,
defines what is
excuse
serious
me,
if not the
these
students
guys
who
have
are
become
facing these issues?
stooges in the hands of their vice chancellors. You know, that's for the student union government leaders. They are stooges in the hands of their vice chancellors, and they also get a lot of pay. You know, then the National Association of Nigerian Students Leaderships have also become stooges in the hands of politicians. That's why per time you have two factions. And then they disgrace themselves by coming out to support maybe one party or the other. So you have two factions, or maybe National Union or National Youth Council of Nigeria, or maybe NANS. One will say, oh, we support the federal government on this, they're doing well. And another will say, oh, we're against the. They're both for different political parties. So, I mean, look at if Nigerian students want to protest, are these the number of people that will come out? Look at that. No.
If we look at the number, there's actually a video. Unfortunately, we're unable to put that. Now, right now, I am not about whether
if
the
Nigerian students want to protest, this nation will not move.
So I'm about the fact that first of all, I'm about the fact that first of all, just before we move on, I'm about the fact that first of all, I really don't want to pay attention to the numbers of students that we have. And let's not forget that this protest is happening in the FCT. We cannot take out the fact that, yes, you have, the NANS or the Nigerian student, the SUG, and the government in schools being taken over, by politicians, governors, and whatever to project their own interests. But my concern here is that there's a strike that's going on. As you say, they're going to be on strike. And you have some sector of people who have come out to say the strike has to be end permanently. And whether or not these persons, the number is up to 1 million, the most important thing is that people are asking that the strike should actually end. And I do not think that this is actually in favor of, because if you look at it, they're saying that as we need to get back to school, the lecturers need to get back to class. And that's the most important thing. We can't continue like this and expect that we want a different climate where we keep our children out of school for a very long time. And then we hope that we have a climate where, there's peace, there's no crime, and there's no criminality in all of that. So yes, for me, it probably might not be about the people who are actually, coming out right now. But the most important thing is the fact that people are asking that the strike has to end.
And we need to pay attention to it. One last question.
We need to move.
When you want to strike and you say you ground, you want the government to notice you. You have to make the government notice you. And if the government doesn't notice you, it's just a protest, you do it and you go away.
So it only be reported, it to be reported
on the national dailies that they went on strike, and that's the end. Nothing. ASU is they're saying that they can go ahead
and
with
do you
their
think
protest.
that ASU would continue with the strike?
ASU is saying that they can go ahead, but nothing small.
Maybe in 2 weeks.
No, they're saying that students have a right, but that they will not go back to school, the classroom. You understand? So what are you protesting for? And if you protest, they must feel it. Otherwise, it's a waste of time.
You and I know that very soon ASU will call the strike.
We have to move
But that's the much that we can take at this point in time. We'll definitely return with top trending conversation surrounding our space right here. That would be tomorrow. In the meantime, we'll step on the brakes. When we return, it'll be time for us to look at the front pages of our national dailies. Please stay with us.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Welcome back to The Breakfast and Plus TV Africa. Time for Off the Press. Chris Kende Nwandu is a chartered mediator and a consolidator. It's good to have you join us this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, my great people. I hope you are good.
Yes,
welcome. How are you coping with the fuel?
Well, we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. You sometimes you leave the car at home and you get into a taxi or use a motorcycle. You know, other than that, you have to spend, the night in the queue.
Exactly. Yeah. It's nice to be with you this morning.
Yes. How is it over at your end with the fuel situation?
It's so terrible, my brother. We have to resort to buying black market because I don't think I have the time to queue for 3, 4, 5 hours for fuel. And that's the situation we find ourselves this time. It's quite unfortunate.
All right, Chris Nwandu, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper this morning. Looking at the Guardian newspaper, the banner caption reads, "Huddles as Nigerian companies take over IOC's onshore asset." And that's what you find. Underneath, $105 billion oil gas decommissioning in Nigeria, others create consent. Shell, ExxonMobil orders to sell over $27 billion asset. Worries over weak infrastructure or legal battle. And just there again underneath you find evacuation of Nigerians in Ukraine begins tomorrow. NNPC gives OICS condition for divestment from Nigeria. That's also another issue that we need to pay attention to. But that's it on the Guardian newspaper this morning.
All right, let's move over to the Daily Independent on Tuesday. With these headlines. The lead one there. Governor's minister protests against draft electricity bill. It's illegal to treat Federation as a single electricity jurisdiction. Governor. Nigerians trapped in Ukraine are not willing to return. Minister. FG begins evacuation of stranded Nigerians tomorrow. NNPC gives IOC's conditions for divestment from Nigeria. They must address abandonment, decommissioning of oil assets, Miller Carey. Can he please tell us about when the fuel scarcity will end? I think that's what Nigerians will be interested in seeing on the front pages of the papers. Terrorists on rampage in Niger abduct construction workers. Details on page 6. Really sad one there. Constitutional amendment. NLC vows to shame lawmakers who vote against local government autonomy. Wants autonomy for judiciary state legislatures. EU as round of talks with Russia ends. Energy giant Shell to end partnership with Russia's Gazprom. Those are the headlines on the front page of the Daily Independent.
Away from the Daily Independent, we take a quick look at the Punch newspaper this morning. And looking at the front page, it says, Ukraine and Russian war, federal government to airlift 2,000 Nigerians. Evacuation begins Wednesday, that's tomorrow. Buhari approves funding as federal government tips Air Peace and Max Air 4 or 5 aeroplanes to evacuate Nigerian refugees. That's what the federal government is saying. Well, that's it. You also have fuel scarcity. NETTI blames subsidy and depot price hits 118 naira per litre. Minister walks out on student protesting as a strike. Quite interesting. Nigerians 993.38 billion naira input from Russia risks over war. That's also another caption there. And just before we move away, SANS reject immunity for Chief Judges of Nigeria, and National Assembly votes today. You also have suspected kidnapper shoot Ekiti monarch. Resident laments government inaction. Nigeria Benin to resolve dispute over oil-rich island. Find out what that's about this morning on the Punch newspaper. And another one says, court gives Abakari go-ahead to treat diabetes and others.
I see, but he's still in detention. They refuse to. Worse, they also have analysis of the Electoral Act in the Punch newspaper, in the Nation rather, newspaper today. You can check out the inside pages for that. More from that paper. INEC okays 18 parties for 2023 elections. INEC okays 18 parties for 2023 election. They're saying no more registration. Details on page 3. Russia-Ukraine war, evacuation of ADP men on withdrawn lists. What IOCs must do before divesting from Nigeria by the NNPC. Last one from the Nation newspaper. Vandalized track derailed Lagos Kano train, says NRC, and government kill 15 in Borno. Headlines from the Nation newspaper.
Well, there's so much we can take at this point in time.
Ukraine. The federal government said that evacuation exercise will start on Wednesday. To me, this is coming too late. We are not proactive enough. If we have done the needful, then by now we're supposed to have made sure that most of our citizens in Ukraine were pulled out before the war. Don't forget that the Americans have been warning about this war for weeks and saying that Putin was going to invade Ukraine. But most governments of the world, especially Nigeria government, probably didn't believe that it will happen. Now it has happened. If you are going to evacuate, you can only evacuate Nigerians that find themselves within the free countries surrounding Ukraine, talking of Poland, probably Hungary, some other countries. But those that are already trapped, how do you evacuate them? And that is the problem for me. And I believe that this has happened time and time again. If you remember what happened in South Africa, during the problem issue we have with South Africa, where Nigerians were killed in their tents, it took only the effort of one man, the owner of APs, Onyema, to be able to pull the nut out of the fire and send an aircraft to South Africa and brought in some Nigerians. But we realized that our government will always play the second fiddle or play second 11 when it comes to. You must have seen so many videos going on online. You saw what the Indians did with their citizens. There are so many other countries. And the most annoying part for me now is that it's not only they say that we're going to pull ourselves out. It's the fact that most Nigerians who find themselves at the border have been restricted from crossing the border because of those people coming in. We are blacks, people. We saw the discrimination against black people. Some were inside the trains and they were pulled out by Ukrainian police and security agencies. The blacks are not given enough room to move out of the country, just like other people. And that is more. And the second one also is that most often than not, to realize that even Ukraine, it is only the women and the children that have been allowed to live. Most men don't find their way out. So, but I think that would have been more proactive than this. But it's always better late than never. If we are sending planes to these countries, as I said, it's only those that are ready to make it across the border. There are so many other Nigerians that have been trapped in Ukraine, and it is our prayer that nothing will happen to them. But I think we would have been more proactive in getting this done. This is a big lesson to Nigeria government, so that anytime you have anything of this nature, let us try as much as possible to be proactive and ask. It is only those that say they are not willing to live, it can be left, but let us try to be proactive and make sure that we pull out our citizens from most of these countries before these issues the crisis get to a point where we cannot do anything again.
All right, thank you, Chris Owandu. We have on the front page of the Nation newspaper, worsening petrol scarcity cripples cities and businesses, and we had a little banter about that before we began this segment. Moving on from that front page of the Nation newspaper, we look at the front page of The Guardian, where the NNPC is giving IOCs conditions for divestment from Nigeria. Of course, some Nigerian billionaires buying the wells of the oil mining leases of these IOCs like Mobil and Co.
Take over IOC's onshore assets. Kofi, that's a serious indictment on us that the IOCs are leaving. Most of the oil companies, foreign oil companies, are leaving Nigeria. And what is the cause? It's probably because the environment is not conducive for them economically, for them to be able to grow. So what they are doing is to sell out their assets and just leave. And that in itself leaves us in a very, very terrible situation, because they are going to lose a lot of foreign expertise. They are going to lose a lot of investment. Yes, Nigerian companies can buy and take over, but we've only seen how we have handled so many of our assets that are owned by Nigerians or Nigerian government. And that to me is a very, very terrible. Then the issue of fuel. Well, I'll tell you, Kofi, as we discussed earlier on, I was able to get a liter of fuel for 200 naira yesterday, the black market. But I believe I was one of the lucky ones, because there have been instances where a lot of people have not been able to get products. And wherever, even when there are, there you see a lot of queues in Lagos. I'm talking of Lagos area now. It has been on in Abuja for weeks now, and nothing has been done about it. And we will continue to ask, just like you rightly asked, what we should be seeing in the front page of papers on television stations like Plus TV and the rest of them in the news, is that NNPC is telling us that within the next 2-3 days that this thing we have really, but it seems that they don't have a solution to the problem. And that brings us back to what people like me have always said. These are issues that we would have avoided. Is because we don't have the capacity to be able to do the right thing, especially at the government level. A situation where we have to depend on, we're a country that exports crude and buy refined products from foreign countries. That's the challenge. We are the few, if not the only country in the world that does that. And let me also tell you that the crisis in Ukraine and Russia is going to cause even more problems for us, because you realize that it's going to escalate. Yeah, the prices of crude will rise. We might be able to sell more, but that in itself is going to have a ripple effect on the imported petroleum. So the prices go up. What does it mean? If we have done the right thing, we ought to have done since 2015 when this government. I've stopped blaming PDP for whatever they've done. This is a government that came to power with so much promises in 2015. We are 7 years into this government, and most of the promises they made, one of it was that they're going to build new refineries and also a turnaround maintenance for all the old ones. But now, as we are talking,
but let's really stay with, the hurdles as Nigerian companies take over the IOCs. I mean, the fact that these IOCs are divesting, and it calls for a lot of concern. The global energy transition, the fact that there's a shift. It feels like it hasn't been, we in Africa, Nigerians are not even thinking about this, because what this practically means is there's going to be a shift from, the demand of fossil fuel. And so people, the world, countries and the entire world will be shifting to clean energy. Where does this leave us? For a country as Nigeria, where we're highly dependent on, if you look at our revenue base, we're very dependent on, oil earnings for all that we do. Over 90%, if not more. So where does this really leave us? It doesn't even feel like the government is engaging. It doesn't even look like we're even considering. Rather, we're giving conditions to these international organizations and what have you. And we think that these instructions and conditions would deter them from leaving. They will eventually leave because there will be no need for oil.
Yeah, you're talking of clean energy. The world is moving on. Rather, while the world takes 10 steps forward, Nigeria is always taking 20 backward. And that is where we find ourselves. The world has gone beyond just oil. The world is thinking a generation without oil. That is how the world is going. That is why you've seen so many advanced countries are now going into electric cars. Kofi, I'm sure you are very well aware of that. And some of them have even put a time frame as to when to stop the use of cars using petroleum. And that is where the world is. So the world is moving forward. But what are we talking about? Let's even on the comical side. Let us even look at the issue of electric car. You are talking of clean energy. We cannot even satisfy our own electricity in Nigeria. We are shorting between 4,000 and 5,000. And we are told that for us to be able to find ourselves in a position where we can be able to be our electricity has to be sufficient. We are looking at close to about 20 to 30,000. We are just shorting between. What means is that even if you bring in electricity car into the country, how are you going to charge them? That's the issue. So why most of these IOCs are also doing this? Because they also be seeing the long-term issue that come in the next few years. Oil may not just be the engine. Some of them are the capacity.
Chris Nwandu, our concern here this morning is that we're not having any conversation surrounding this. It doesn't even feel like this is happening to us. I mean, for a country that is highly dependent on, oil earnings for whatever we do. I mean, look at our budget. We have to borrow to fund it. It means that if we are highly dependent on what accrues from, oil earnings, then it means that if oil is taken, we do not have anything. I mean, there's nothing left for us. How do we now run the country? How do we now pay salaries? What do we now do? That's what I'm asking. And how come the government is not talking about this? We're not having any conversation.
I was going to that. Don't forget, it's not today we're talking about the issue of diversification of the economy. We have said it time and time again that dependent on oil as our sole foreign exchange earner is going to hurt us very, very. And that is why at times when I see people laugh, I just say that, God, can you just let this oil dry up so that we can be more creative in going about our business? Because there are so many areas that we can look at. We are talking about agriculture. We are talking of area of mining. Look at, there's no state in Nigeria that does not have a product that we can look at and be able to arrange that we can export. Our oil palm is there. There is coal. There is steel in Jos. There is gold. There are so many other things. Where so many other. A country like Dubai, UAE, they don't have oil, but they are one of the most developed countries in the world. And you ask yourself, where are they getting the money? We are not looking at IT. If you look at the first 10 billionaires in the world, the richest people in the world, I will tell you that about 9 out of the 10 is from IT. Countries like India, countries like China, countries like so many other things are really taking serious effort. And it's not that we don't have the brain. We've seen so many instances where we see Nigerians who have the capacity in this area of IT.
December, we haven't even met the quota. We're not producing
the quota, and that is the issue. That is it. We are not even meeting the quota being given us, and that should be a challenge for us. Those should be the conversation. But what is our government doing? They are practically doing nothing. They are saying nothing. They are not telling us what they are going to do. We've set up a ministry for so many product line, but none is working. And I continue asking myself, what is wrong with us? What is wrong with us, people? We are one of the most blessed countries in the world with so many human mineral resources to our. But is it that we don't have the human? And I bring this to leadership. I continue saying that our problem is that most often I ask the question, what is the problem? Is it the leadership or the people? And to me, I've come to the conclusion that our problem is not about the people, but the kind of leaders we have. Leaders that don't have vision, leaders that cannot see beyond their nose, leaders that cannot see and follow the world trend and be able to get creative so that they can bring us out of this problem. But that is where we are. We are not taking that. And let me also tell you this. One of the reasons why we are having these challenges about petrol importation is that because so many people are making so much money out of it. Those in government are making money. And they know that if they refine these products locally, that they will not make those. That is why they are making the refineries that are not working.
All right, Chris Kagan, thank you. It's really such a shame that the authorities, including Melikari himself, was pictured on the front page of The Guardian with some Arab, oil officials at the National energy summit in Abuja, is not telling Nigerians anything about the daily, updates. They're not giving us updates. They're not giving us anything about the situation of things in the country. Well, let's hope for the best. But I think this probably you would agree that this is taking Nigerians for granted. Let's look at the strike situation. A couple of papers covered that today, and we will look at what the Daily Independent has. It says NANS to block roads or federal roads in Southwest if ASU continues to strike. And we go to the Punch, which says Minister walks out of students protesting ASU strike. And please permit me to give a few lines from the Punch's account. It says that students of tertiary institutions under the aegis of the National Association of Nigerian Students of Money protested in parts of the country. We'll move on to that. In Abuja, protesting students grounded activities at the Federal Secretariat and demanded to speak with the minister, a request that was grounded. Now, Mr. Wanda, please listen to this line. A request that was granted. The minister actually allowed and accepted that they should come and speak to him. At the meeting with the minister, President of NANS, Sunday Ashefo, demanded an immediate end to the ongoing strike while negotiations continue. This is what he's telling the Minister of Education. He demanded an end to the ongoing strike while negotiations continue. Not bad. But he also called for, please underline this, the inclusion of students in the negotiating process. The inclusion of students in the negotiating process, threatening that students may ground activities nationwide as done during the NSAS protest. Mr. Wandu, we've covered such events ranging from NANS to NLC in particular, and unions and all that. And we know what is going on, don't we?
We do. We know what is going on, and we cannot pretend about it. As rightly said, we are all students. We passed through good enough. Most of us passed through the university, not the polytechnic, so we know it. I was one of those that led the Aluta in LASU in 1986 when I was a post-year student in LASU, and I during the period of IBB, and that's why today you see most of my mates, they still call me Christo LASU, because we know what we
I see. Now I know where you get it from.
Yeah. And I was also a member of the Student Representative Council in those days. LASU was very notorious in those days. If you follow the history of LASU in the 80s, 90s, we were very notorious. Any little thing would block the Badagry Expressway and nothing happened. Yes. So, but we were very tactical about it. That was one. Two, we also have a very concerted and very solid NANS, National Union, NANS, that was very proactive. We didn't have what we call mercenaries as we have them now in NANS. When you see students, the president of NANS, I think he should be going to his 40s. And I was hearing him the other day, he was a postgraduate student of one of the universities. Then you can see, if you also see how he emerged, you must have seen the process through which he emerged. That at a point, people felt that it's just a government street. The NANS that we used to know when we were in school is not the NANS we know now. And that is why nobody's taking them serious. You can see the number of students that turned out for that rally in Abuja. I don't think they're up to 100. In those days, if NANS is calling out a protest, Kofi, I'm telling you that the whole of Abuja will be shut down. We know what used to be. The whole of Abuja will be shut down. It's just what University of Abuja alone can shut down Abuja. That one university can shut down Abuja, and the government will feel it. But you see the pocket of number of people that went out. So, but I feel that yes, the question is that you were talking about they should be included in the negotiation. I don't have any problem with that. I will tell you for free also that during our days, I remember that during the days of our protests, it got to a point where the governor of Lagos State, then Raji Rasaki, had to also invite some of our student union leaders to be part of the negotiation, and at the end of it, some of those things were resolved. I don't have any problem with NANS being part of the negotiation team, but the problem is that NANS needs to get his ass together. He has to win the confidence of the students. He needs to win the confidence of the people they are leading. This is a strike that's becoming so many. But who will you blame? I wouldn't blame ASU. I will always blame the federal government, because you sign an agreement. If you know you are not going to fit the agreement, why do you sign it with ASU? And you continue to ask yourself, why do you sign this agreement periodically with ASU and you fail to do it? So any kind of action that the students want to take, be able to bring to the fore, the government to be able to realize that they need to do something about this strike, then but the issue of now bringing in NSAS, we feel like I think that's just very primary and very childish. I don't think that's to come up. There should be much. I think they can be more proactive in their actions and the way they go about the protest without necessarily bringing all this show of NSAS, and you don't need to take government.
You need to ask. You need to ask also where we're now during the NSAS protests and what have they said. Following, the documented massacre on Nigerian youth. But I'm raising my eyebrow at that demand to be part of the negotiating process. You went all the way to the minister to tell him that a strike must be called off when he's not the one that called a strike in the first place. That means you don't know what you're doing. Secondly, you now say he should include you in the negotiating process. The motives for asking to be included should be questioned.
No, you don't need to question that. What is the university all about? It's not about lecturers. The university is about the students. Without the student, there will be no lecturer. There will be no ASU. That you should get that. You should also understand that. So they should be part of the negotiation. When two elephants fight, then it's the grass that suffers. It's the student that suffers, not ASU.
Chris, is it the federal government who would end the strike while negotiations continue? Do they have the power to do that? Shouldn't they be passing that message to ASU rather than to the federal government saying?
It's a suggestion.
Okay.
When you go to negotiation, you go with open arms. Anything happen. Where I was going to is that Kofi, why ASU is on strike? Do you know that their salaries are being paid? Their salaries are being paid. But most of those students that you see protesting, most of them, close to about 70 to 80% number of students don't live in campuses. Most of those students are living in rented apartments. Yeah. They will pay for those apartments. Have you forgotten? That they will pay for those apartments. So whether they are there or not, they must pay for those apartments. Some of them have paid school fees for one session. That one session has been eroded, and that's it. And they have to pay again. So what I'm saying is that, so you cannot say they are not, they should be part of the negotiation team. I believe, and I should believe that they should be part of the negotiation team. They are the students. They are the ones wearing the shoe. Kofi, you and I have graduated. We don't know what is happening. But I can also tell you that what you don't know is that
Chris Nwandu, yes. I have to come in here now. But just before we move away from this conversation, and look at another headline on the dailies this morning, we also need to understand. I like the fact that you have mentioned, and which is the fact that the reason why the strike is lingering is because one party has refused to agree to the terms of, an agreement, a contract. You can't, there's always this street patterns that says agreement is an agreement. The question is, why would you get into a contract and refuse to respect it? It is so much lawlessness, and I'm lacking words right now to describe how we constantly do not respect it. And here we say that education is it, and we constantly, if education is the bedrock of every nation, then why do we constantly have to experience all of this strike? Where does this leave us as a country? So
let me just end on this. I just wanted to tell Kofi, in case Kofi doesn't know. Kofi, I'm an undergraduate as well. In as much as I left university 1990, that's over 30 years ago. I'm currently a 500 level law student. So when I'm talking,
you're affected. You're an intelligent displaced person of sorts. Well, all I can say is that.
So that will allow us to be part of the negotiation. That's what I'm saying.
No problem. All I can say is aluta continua.
So Chris, let's also look at this one. It has to do with, the elections, 2023. Now, INEC is saying it's OK's 18 parties for the 2023 election. It therefore means that if you have the ideology of having a thought force, we'll be hearing this conversation about thought force, there's no possibility of this thought force coming together as a political party is a no.
Well, from what INEC has said, it's probably that they might not be able to register another political party. What the thought force can do is to fill the State House of Assembly, National Assembly, and the rest of it. You only see somebody wake up one day and say, I'm the presidential candidate of this social party. And when you start getting about 2 weeks to election, you quickly go and say, oh, I endorse this other person. and they collect their cash and move away. The way it is structured, I have always believed that the best thing for us in Nigeria, that is my personal opinion, is a two-party system. Sincerely. Not that when I say two-party system is very, very. You saw what happened during the NRC and SDP days, during Babangida. You saw the kind of election that we had. But as a Democrat, I want to give room for as many political parties as possible for people. But you continue to see that it is only the PDP and APC that are always dominating the political space. Why don't most of these political parties, for the sake of whatever it is worth, to be able to come together and fuse together and become that third force that Messi is talking about? If we have 18 political parties being being allowed to take part in 2020, why don't the 16 remaining parties come together and come out with a candidate that would be a better and bigger third force and say, Nigerians, we have come out, this is the alternative to APC, this is the alternative to PDP. We have tried PDP, they failed. We've tried APC, why don't you try it? That is the way I think they should be able to go about this. But the way it is structured now, you still realize that most of the political parties are just existing in names and nothing, apart from APC, PDP, ABGA, and which other one. I think those are just the three. I don't see any other political party making any headway.
All right. Thank you very much. A very interesting analysis and contributions from you of papers this morning. Chris Kende Wandu is a chartered mediator, conciliator. He's a Nigerian student, former student union leader as well. Chris, I was also leader in the faculty departmental level, so I think we have something in common. Yes, we have something in common.
So, you know what
so all I can say is luta continua. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. Do have a nice day ahead.
You too. You too.
Well, it's been an amazing time, Chris Wendu. Thank you so much for being part of the breakfast. We look forward to having more of you right here. We will let you know what happened today in history, being the very first day in the month of March. When we return, we head straight to our first major conversation, the continuous the fact that we have the queues still prolonged, and the fact that maybe or maybe not, the fear of scarcity might just be something that would live with us for a very long time. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
In raising our kids, parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you are looking for money,
to help others.
On Plus TV Africa, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.
For me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before you can believe that, you know, good food is going to come out of that kitchen.
You can leverage on each other's spaces and, you know, sell. We believe in Nigeria, right? We believe that Nigeria can get better. We, the youth, are the ones that can make it better.
And my products are proudly made in Nigeria.
Made in Niger, showing every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. and repeats on Saturday at 8:30 a.m.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
He suffered equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 and they pay.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshukeye.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. Like, no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild.
This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. From the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
How can we have peace without justice?
Plus Politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. Relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need. Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
Our kids, parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you are looking for money to help other people, then it becomes easy.
Don't rush into marriage. I always say this. You rush in, you rush out.
Family is the bedrock of every society and the essence of life.
On Today with John and Helen, we dig deep into family values in every sense of the word.
Join us every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. on Plus TV Africa, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
Still the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We apologize for bringing you the breakfast a little bit behind schedule, but it's a good thing that we're here. We head straight to our first major conversation, and we're looking at the continuous fuel scarcity and the fact that with the assurance to Nigerians that the distribution of premium motor spirit, that's the PMS, would soon be normalized, and NNPC had promised additional 2.3 billion litres to the existing 1 billion litre to address the issue of scarcity. Now, scarcity of petrol, like we earlier mentioned, is there despite the government's promise that petrol will be all over, the petrol scarcity would be over. But this continues in different parts of the country. Now, on the other hand, you have the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, directed its members to start compiling names of marketers hoarding premium motor spirit, that's the PMS, and also selling above official depot price. Meanwhile, you also have fuel scarcity faced by countries that might just... There's also another report saying that the fuel scarcity we're faced with in the country might just be prolonged because the vessels that brings refined products into the country around the Ukraine and Russia are likely to face delay following all of the crisis that's happening in Russia and Ukraine. Now, to make sense of all of this, to understand why we still have the scarcity of the products and why we still have people not selling this product at the stipulated price, and maybe he has an idea as regards what's going on, because as at this point in time, no minister, no information whatsoever, or statement from the Minister of Petroleum, and the traffic in Lagos is unusual. I mean, coupled with the fact that the traffic is usually very, very high and intense. It's a lot to actually go through with at this point in time. Some people say it's such a difficult time to be a Nigerian. There seem to be, or there is fuel scarcity across some parts of the country. And some people say that, depot owners are saying that they had actually paid for this product, but up until this moment, they have not received the consignment. And that's on the one hand. Some people are also saying that, you know, you have the black market operators actually booming in the midst of this scarcity. You still have the long queues, and you also have some fueling station selling above the actual pump price. So this is a lot to understand, and we can't really fathom what is going on, despite the fact that NNPC had mentioned that they were going to make this product available. We're looking at 2.3 billion litres of petrol. Can you quickly tell us what you know about the scarcity of petrol in Nigeria?
Thank you very much for having
like rightly said, the Delta government have said that they are waiting for one standard. Yeah, so the truth of the matter is this issue of charity will be a thing of past very soon, because the NNPC have assured that there is billions of people that will be coming to wealth, that will be coming to Kenya. So for me, any marketers are telling and the guys are telling them. So it's because of the best product. So nobody is very good to see here, so they decide to tell the so I just this man is there for the people, this man is there to do the right thing. So if anyone is not product in any of these jobs, it is not because we want to increase yes, but because of the way we work with the factors, the other factors, because of the so anybody that is
Mr. Douglas Iyike, we have to let you go now. We seem to have a poor connection. Mr. Douglas, if you can hear us, we're having a poor connection. We can barely hear you. We're straining to hear you right now. And we're hoping that we're able to, resolve that, maybe from your end or our end, and we'll have that connection. If the federal government, yes, we understand that there was an importation of adulterated product, which cost a lot. And the government said, we're going to cushion all of this. We're going to import, 2.3 billion. I remember that. And this week as well, NNPC also started by assuring Nigerians that all of this was going to be a matter of the past. And that's what the NNPC said, assuring Nigerians also in this week. But we're still here talking about the issue of fuel scarcity. Now, in the midst of this fuel scarcity, you also find that the black market is also blossoming. They're making a lot. How do they even get this product even when others can't get it, because they get it and then they sell it, at a very exorbitant price?
That's a very good question.
So where's the problem? We also have another excuse saying because of the crisis that's going on in Russia and Ukraine, this is all going to affect the availability of the product, because the ship that would actually bring the refined product into Nigeria around this country might just face all of this delay because of the conflicts and the situation around this country. So I really don't know, but some people say that Nigeria might just be taking advantage of the situation. As always, it's a blame game, and it brings us back to the fact that why are we experiencing this? Why are we also having people buying above the actual price? Could this be also the issue of subsidy being removed? Where exactly is going on? And for me, I really don't know. Maybe we have heard from the minister. We really don't know categorically what's going on. Maybe Kofi, you have an idea.
Yes, indeed. It's really sad that the petrol scarcity situation is lingering as we speak. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. Let's not mince words. Of PC Limited or even oil officials. And all right, Timi Presilva, you have petrol, you go to work every day. President Buhari, you have petrol, you go to work every day. Your family is happy. You came back to tell us that Nigeria is going to produce COVID-19 vaccines when Nigerians are dealing with an excruciating petrol scarcity that's getting worse with employment, and they're leaving. They're going to pack up their bags and leave. A lot of Nigerian lives have been bettered by this. So what are we talking about here? That is a red flag. By now, the alarm bell should be ringing, and these guys seem not to care. It's really unfortunate. And as far as it seems, it's like.
Do we have? I think maybe we probably have Mr. Douglas Iyike back on the line, but not that. I mean, I can actually relate. It's not a joke. If this product is really scarce and people have to queue, how do these persons have